So just kind of give you a brief overview of what calculus is, and then how the mechanics of the class are going to work as far as grading goes. So calculus is basically mathematics of change. So you know, a great example I could give you is this. You know, if you're driving 50 miles an hour for 2 hours, how far are you going to go? 100 miles, right? Because your speed's constant, that's easy, just multiply. But, you know, like what happens when you're at an intersection and you start to speed up, right? You're starting at 0 and you are accelerating, you know, like let's say your car can reach 60 miles per hour in about, you know, racing your thing. Let's say you get there in about maybe like 10 seconds or 5 seconds or something like that. How much distance did you cover in that 10 seconds? Well, that's hard to say because your speed is changing all along. So now you can't just multiply, you go to changing speed. Well, that's calculus. So there are 3 big topics within calculus: limits, differentiation, and integration. And that's all we do all year. What is a limit? In pre-calculus, we could use a given x value to find a y value. So if I said x equals 0, what's the y value? 4, right? It's this point right there. When x equals 0, y equals 4. If I were to say to you, what's the y value when x equals 1, you might be tempted to say 5, but why would you not? If I said x equals 1, you might be tempted to say y equals 5, but you can't. Can somebody tell me why?
It's undefined.
It's undefined. There's a hole there. The graph doesn't exist there. But that's pre-calculus. But in calculus, we talk about these things called limits. And a limit is a value that you are approaching, not a value that you necessarily are equaling. So if I were to say to you, what is the limit of the function as x approaches 1, then you could tell me what y value it's getting close to. What y value is it getting close to? It's approaching 5. So it can't equal 5, but it can approach 5. That's what a limit is, and that's actually the heart of calculus right there, is the idea of a limit. Getting closer and closer to something that's not necessarily defined at a single point. You'll see why that's the foundation. Matter of fact, it's what gives you the other 2 concepts, derivatives and integrals. Limits is what give us those things. So limit is the heart of calculus. Differentiation. In pre-calculus, you guys could find the average rate of change. So like maybe last year your teacher gave you a parabola and 2 points and said find the slope between these 2 points. Well, you just imagine there being a line going straight across and find the slope, and there's your average rate of change. We call it an average because really the slope of this function is different in different places. Like if I were to ask you to find the slope not from here to here, but like from here to here, well, that has a different slope, doesn't it? So the function's slope is constantly changing, okay? But that line has 2 endpoints, doesn't it? It's got a starting point and an ending point. Well, in calculus, instead of finding the average slope between 2 points, we can find the exact slope at 1 point, okay? So what would that look like? I'm surprised I don't have a picture. I wonder if I do. But like, let's say I just wanted to find the slope at this point. It's what we call the tangent line. And that is the instantaneous slope at that point. It's not an average between 2 points, but it's an instantaneous slope. And that's actually what your homework starts to help you guys grasp a little bit. That's what a derivative is. So we have limits and we have derivatives. Okay? What is integration? That's our 3rd big topic. You guys know, if I wanted you to find the area of this shape, what would you do? Area of a circle. What's the area of a circle? You guys are just being shy. It's pi r squared, right? Okay. Radius here is about 5, so pi r squared would be 25 pi, correct? But it's half of a circle, so it'd be half of 25 pi, correct? So we could do that. It's just geometry. But in calculus, we can find the area underneath weird shapes like this one down here. Okay? And that's what integration helps us do. And once again, integration is connected to derivatives, connected to limits. How they're connected is not clear yet, but they will be as the year goes on. So that's what calculus is. Limits, approaching something. Derivatives, slopes at a single point. Integration, areas under curves. And it's all about changing. Stuff that changes. Stuff that's not the same. It's always changing. And you guys know how like subtraction is the opposite of addition, right? Division's the opposite, or the fancy word is inverse of multiplication. Well, integration is the inverse of derivation or differentiation, sorry, is the proper word. So they're inverses of each other. Why that is? Well, we'll see as the year goes on. But here's our agenda for the year. You guys have that printed for you, so you guys kind of see the timeline. Your test this year is going to be on May 5th, 8 a.m. It's the second day of AP testing, so we have a little bit less time than we did last year. And as you guys can see, we just kind of do differentiation, integration, and limits all year. That's it. Okay. We're going to start up tomorrow. What you're going to need for our class is a 3-ring binder. I don't follow the textbook too closely. Instead, we just kind of use our notebooks. So I'll pass this around. This is an example from pre-calculus, but it's the same for calculus. None of my calculus kids left their notebooks here last year. That were nice anyway. But basically, you guys can just kind of see what I'm expecting. 3-ring binder with dividers. You could use a composition book if you want, or a spiral-bound notebook if you want. The downside to those is that I do print out a lot of your notes, and unless you're okay with taping things in, you might want to get a 3-ring binder so you can hole punch, but I'll leave that up to you. You're going to need at least 8 tab dividers because we're going to have 8 units. We're going to go up through 7, and then we're going to have a review section, so you'll want to have at least 8 tab dividers in there. We're going to be using 3 books this year. You're going to get this top one today, I think. The other 2 we'll get in time as time goes by. So how is AP Calculus be different from other math classes? Well, it's a little bit faster paced. Challenge level should be a little bit more thought-provoking, you know, not as cookie cutter. You know, it's like when I say cookie cutter, it's like, you know, a teacher does an example and then you do one just like it. Although I try to stick to that a little bit, but I will stretch you a little bit more than maybe you're used to if you've had me before. I would say a big one is the workload. You can expect about 1 to 2 hours of homework a night if you're serious about the class and you want to pass your AP test. If you're going to settle for a C and don't care about the AP, then you know you could probably get away with like maybe 30 minutes of homework a night or copying somebody before class or whatever. But if you actually want to pass the exam, then you're going to want to do about 1 to 2 hours of homework a night. Now, a lot of you guys in here are smarty pants, which means you probably never studied for math, and you just kind of come, do your homework when you feel like it, come and pass the test. I will tell you that applies to nobody in this class anymore. Nobody does that. I had 1 kid do that last year out of 40. But mind you, they're all like you guys. They're all like, I don't need to do homework. But no, it's very different. It will be much more challenging. You will need to study. You will need to do your homework. It will be a butt kicker. So if you signed up for like 6 AP classes, you're going to be a little stressed this semester, and that's okay, I guess. But if you only have this class as your AP, that's awesome. You know, you can give all your time to it. If not, then you're going to be a little bit stressed. It will be a lot of time. I'll say it again. I'm not just trying to scare you. Talk to anybody from last year. Nobody skates by in here. It's not just I'm going to show up and pass the test kind of class anymore. You will have to work for it. Okay? I guarantee you. Something else that makes the class a little bit different is there's a precision of expectation of precision in how you write mathematics. So leaving out a tiny little symbol could actually cost you 30% of the problem. So it's very picky. Because why do I do that? Because that's how they grade you on the AP test. So it's very picky. There's a very extreme degree of precision in how you write your mathematics, and I'll train you in that as we go. Also, a lot of justification and explanation. Answers only are not okay. You do need to show work. You do need to explain why the answer makes sense, stuff like that. So the grading, I really try to make the grades match what you would kind of get on your AP test. So, you know, if you were to get like a 5 or a 4, you should have an A in my class. If you were to get a 3, you should have about a B. And if you don't at least even get that, then you probably shouldn't have anything above a B or a C then, okay? So I do try to make the grades match the AP exam. Does everybody understand AP grading scales and all that when I was talking about 5s, 4s, and 3s? Okay. All right, so that's where we stand there. We have a quiz every Wednesday. Covers the stuff from the previous week. There's your grade breakdown. You're looking at 80% of your grade is based on what you know. Homework and notes, I don't grade those things for accuracy. I just grade to make sure you're doing them. That's 20% of your grade. Tests, every 3 to 4 weeks. Give you a study guide beforehand. Maybe we'll do a Saturday school or an after school day to prepare you for it in advance. I give 2-day tests. They're spanned over 2 days. The first day, like let's say we're taking our Unit 2 test, you'll take whatever we learned in Unit 2, test on that. The second part, we'll always have review questions, multiple choice style, and they will be increasingly getting closer and closer to AP level type questions, which means they're not necessarily the easiest things in the world, but they're straight from AP test prep materials. I have a test prep book that I'll be pulling questions from, and that way you guys will know what to expect when you get there. It won't be a total slap in the face, but like I said, if you're not doing that 1 to 2 hours of homework every night, it will be a slap in the face, and you'll probably fail your review parts, just so you know. So it's going to be a lot of work. You can do it, but it's a lot of work. Part 3, think on your feet type questions. These are kind of like to get you ready for your FRQs. I'm going to give you a really hard question. Now, it's only about 5% of your test, so don't freak out too much. But I'm going to give you a really hard free response type question. You get a couple minutes to read it on your own, then you get a couple minutes to work with somebody else, and then you get to go back and do your final touches. But while you're discussing, you can't write stuff down. But that's to kind of get you guys ready for the FRQ portion where you got to learn how to think a little bit in a new situation. These are questions where it involves the math you know, but it's applied in a way you haven't seen before. Okay? So, and I need you guys to be able to think outside the box a little bit, not look for just those questions that Mr. Bailey showed you, but actually be able to take what I've shown you and apply it in a new situation, because that's what you're going to be up against on your exam. Okay? However, I've gotten it down to a science pretty good on what kind of questions you can expect, but still I want you guys to be ready for something maybe unexpected. So that's what that part's for. I do let you guys use notes on the test if you like, but it captured grade at 80, and I do allow you to do retakes on your tests, but that also captured grade at 80. If you do a retake, I do let you use your notes for free. Cool? All right. Quizzes, we already talked about that. Did I put quizzes in there twice? Oh, no. Okay, we're good there. Homework, that's your guys' homework board right there. This is Calculus AB. You're going to have homework every night. I don't typically grade homework for accuracy unless I say otherwise. You're going to have about 10 to 20 problems of homework about the topic that we learned for that day, every day. That's going to be about 30 to 60 minutes worth of work. Let's do the next day. You're also going to be assigned review homework. We won't do this though until September, and I'll give you about 3 or 5 problems from this other book. It's our test prep book every night. That'll take you about 15 to 30 minutes, and that's due at the end of the week. That's not due every day. It's due at the end of the week. And then free response question practice. We probably won't start that up until second semester, but when we get there, that'll take, you're going to get another book with sample free response questions from the past. So you see we're going to start off light, but we're going to be adding more, and by the time we get to December, you guys should be doing about 2 hours of homework a night. Okay? If you skip like you skip this, you're going to fail the review part of your test. If you skip this, you're going to start failing Wednesday quizzes, because this is where the Wednesday quizzes come from. If you skip this, you're not learning calculus anymore. So you don't want to skip anything. It's a lot of work. This is not an easy class, just so you guys know. The reason being is because the pass rate in here is not as high as it is in BC. Now, it's not because BC is easier, but it's because people in BC have had this class already, and they're learning it again for a second time over there. You guys are drinking from a fire hydrant and expected to do well. Okay, so you're getting a lot, and the only way you're going to reach the goal of passing the test, which, by the way, that's what I'm teaching for. I'm not like, oh, pass it if you want. This is AP calculus, so I'm going to teach it like you guys are all serious about it. Okay, so that's why your grade reflects that too. All right, so the notebook, I'm going to have you guys do a notebook. Did I already pass it around? Where did it go? I did? Oh, okay, good. So you guys already saw it then. Cool. It's graded on neatness, organization, and completeness. Later on in the year, we're going to get to free response questions. Probably not till January. When I start assigning them, you're going to, they come out of these little books here, and all it is a collection of old FRQ questions. But basically, what I'm expecting you guys to do is read it, try it on your own. The first time you do them, you're going to feel like, oh my God, I'm going to fail. And that's okay, so don't feel bad. That's normal. But you're going to practice them a lot. And eventually, you'll be like, I've seen this question like 3 times. I get it now. It's going to click. It's going to take time. Only if you're doing the homework that I assign you, though, right? So you want to try it on your own, but they're all uploaded on YouTube. So part of your homework is actually go home and try it on your own, watch the YouTube video, have it correct and complete, and after a while, I'll just start quizzing you on stuff after. But like I said, that probably won't seriously start to happen until like January or maybe December. Okay, it'll be a little while. They are graded AP style, so just so you guys, can feel a little bit comfortable here and not freak out too much, here's a little bit of something to give you some breathing room. If you get a 60%, that's actually considered passing the AP, so that would be like a 3. So if you anything above that, obviously it starts to go up. So you don't have to feel too freaked out. You can get a pretty low grade and still pass the exam. So they grade it pretty harshly. Like I think if you were to get like not a 60% actually. I think like a 50% would be like a score of 3, okay? And a 60% would be like a score of like a 4. So, they know the test is hard and the expectation is high. So don't worry, the grading is rather gracious, but that's how I'll be grading you guys as well. Okay? Absences and late work. I don't take late work. But if you're ever absent, you can get anything you're missing off of Google Classroom. I upload the videos, the lessons, the handouts, all that good stuff. If you are gone a lot with a bunch of unexcused absences, that might affect your ability to turn in assignments, just so you know, somewhere along the way. But I wouldn't expect that to apply to too many people in here. This is obvious stuff. 1 person at a time. 5 to 10 minutes. Let me know before you go. Cell phones. so long as you're not screwing with your ability to learn or somebody else is unhappy. Tardies, I'm kind of laid back about. I'll give you 1 minute past the late bell, but there you go. So basic stuff. You guys got any questions for me there? Okay, so I'll do one entry for you guys, just so you guys kind of get a feel for what I'm doing here. And then you guys can do the rest of your homework. You want to bring this tomorrow. That's what we're going to open with, and then we'll move into our first calculus lesson. So it says each point, each of these dots, is generated by the function f of x equals x squared. So I'm going to put y equals x squared just because that's a little bit prettier to look at. Lines 1 through 6, that's these blue lines. Connect this point here, which is 2, 4, to other points. So like, looks like line 1 connects this point to 2, 4. Line 2 connects this point to 2, 4. Line 3, and so on. What we want to do is we want to find the slope of all 6 of those lines. Okay? So you guys know that the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? Rise over run? All right. So let's start with line 1. Line 1 is right here. The x value for that one is going to be 8. Which means that y equals what? Okay, so I'm going to come down here to my table, and when x equals 8, y is 64, right? So I've got a point of 864, correct? And that line 1 is connected to what other point?
2, 4.
And can I find the slope between those 2 points? I can. So I'll call this one y2, this one y1, x2, x1. So here we go. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that's going to give me 60 over 6, which is 10. That's my slope. So basically, you guys need to find your y value. And then you're going to take that point and find the slope of that point with 2, 4, because it's all these lines are connecting to this point. And you're going to find the slope. Now the goal of this assignment, though, is you guys are going to notice a trend in the slopes. As the y and x values are changing, you're going to notice something happening to the slope. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at what these things are approaching. Did I use that word earlier today, approaching? That was a limit word, wasn't it? So we're looking at limits. You don't realize it yet, but we are. So that's what that is. If you guys want to try doing the 7 really quick to make sure you got it, I'll pause and let you guys try it out and show you what you did in a minute. All right, so we said this was 64 and this was 10, right? So what's this number? 49, because y equals x squared. This is a what value? That's an x value. So I'm going to plug that in. That tells me my y is 49, and that is this point right, where is it? 749. So it's probably a little bit off here, I think. Probably this one right here, 749. And we're connecting it to what other point? 2, 4. That's this point down here. And we want to find their slope. So what's the next slope then? It is 9. Let's see why it's 9. My point here is 749. And we're connecting it to what point? 2, 4. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is going to be 45 over 5, which is 9. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have to do the work for the rest of them?
No, you can do it mentally. I'm cool with that. And what I want you guys, the questions after you guys fill out this table is you're going to start, I'm going to ask you questions. What do you notice is happening to the slope? What's it, it's going to be approaching something, and that's what I want you guys to be looking at. Okay? And that's your homework. And we'll have that, that'll be our first thing we start off with tomorrow. Okay? Any questions before we close it out for the day? All right, guys. We're good.